Good afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here with a very important tropical weather outlook and discussion for Wednesday, August the 7th, 2024. So this is going to be a really detailed, lengthy video because we have a lot to talk about as far as upper ocean heat content and a big change to the tropics coming up in the next week or two as we get prepared for a very busy period coming later in August into early September. So here's a look at the GOES 16 true color visible satellite imagery here, courtesy of tropicaltidbits.com, Dr. Levi Cowan, to making this all possible. There's a link in the description below this video, and we can see what we have going on right now in the tropics. We have what is now still Tropical Storm Debbie. Cannot believe it. It is just sitting there. It is not moving. It is bringing a lot of flooding over here. Some of the flooding has been so bad that there are some houses that are underwater because of just so much rain that has accumulated. And it's going to continue for a couple more days, possibly all the way through maybe Saturday before this system is finally going to be moving to the northeast and out of the United States. But that's not it. As we take a look here at the deep tropics, we do have deep convection right now, but not like what we're about to witness in the next, say, 4 or 5 days. When the easterly African jet really gets going, we get these tropical waves coming off, and I do see some potential here that we could have a very significant tropical wave moving off of Africa in the next 3 or 4 days, and this could be moving into the Caribbean, into the southwestern Atlantic in the next 7 to 10 days. And with that being said, there is a potential here that there will be tropical development. We will be showing you this on the Ensembles in just a little bit. But in the meantime, enjoy the rather quiet Atlantic because things are going to be changing very quickly. Tropical Storm Debbie, 60-mile-an-hour winds, probably going to be upgraded a little bit more, maybe to 65 in the next advisory. And again, this is just sitting just off the coast of South Carolina right now, bringing a lot of flooding, a lot of problems. There's still a high risk for flooding in portions of North Carolina over the next day or two. We have this tropical wave down here that has a 0% chance of tropical development. We thought that might have an opportunity of doing something, but it looks like nope, it is not, which is good news because we know what's coming beyond the 7-day period. And of course, out here in the deep tropics, looking quiet for now, but that will change soon. Now, when we take a look at our tropical weather outlook forecast here on the European model, we will be comparing 3 global computer models because that's what I like to do in my videos to make sure I'm very thorough, I'm very detailed, and it's easy to understand at the same time. So we're going to first look at the European, then we're going to be looking at the GFS model, and then we're going to be looking at the Canadian model, all using the 3-plot system that I like to use here. This is the vorticity in color shading, how much spin there is in the atmosphere. The more spin you get, the more likely you get a tropical storm or a tropical depression that forms. So this is what we look at here on this map, and that's Debbie, right? So that's what we want to look for when looking at the tropics down here in the main development region. And then, of course, you have your thicknesses, and this is surface pressure here on the European FAST model that Dr. Levi Cowan makes possible for us, for free people that want to access this right away. And then you get your wind barbs that show you the wind direction and speed at the same time. So this is a 3-plot system at 5,000 feet above the surface. All right, so I want to make sure you all understand this very well. So let's go forward here. This is the next 24 hours. There is Debbie, really pretty much in the same spot, not going anywhere. That's very unfortunate. So through Thursday, you're going to have a lot of flood problems, constant heavy rainfall, maybe water spouts and tornadoes. But after that goes by, then things should settle down only briefly before things really ramp up again. We're keeping an eye on this tropical wave. Okay, so if we go back in time, that tropical wave is technically getting its act together right now off of Africa. Nothing too significant there. But watch what happens beyond 4 days. By day 5, this is what it looks like. You can see that little tropical wave there. And then by day 6, it gets going. So this is by Tuesday, August the 13th. Next week, you can see this tropical wave that is right now, or that will be in the Eastern Caribbean based on this forecast. And then guess what? We have another tropical wave. And then guess what? We have another tropical wave. So they're all lining up out here. We know what's coming, and you all have to make sure you are ready for this. 3 tropical waves. But guess what? There's more than likely going to be more than just 3 there coming off of Africa. Let's go into Wednesday, August the 14th. That tropical wave does try to develop into our next storm. This would be Ernesto. What I just said, I should have not spit it out at Ernesto here. Really pre-naming something that is literally 10 days away is probably very obnoxious for me to do in the first place. But there are indications that this could actually become our next significant storm if it does develop as what the model shows. And then guess what? Here's another tropical wave. And guess what? Here's another tropical wave. They're just coming off of Africa like a parade. You know, have you been to the Rose Parade in Pasadena after on New Year's Day, and you just see one float and then you see others following behind it? That's basically what we're seeing here. We're witnessing the beginnings of a very busy period, possibly even a hyperactive period coming. Now looking at the GFS model, the same plot system like what we saw on the European model, only this is a little bit different, of course, right? Each model has their own biases and has their own way of forecasting and interpolating with what we're seeing. So same plot system. Let me refresh this. Always seems to have an issue. I don't know why, if it's a tropical tidbits issue or if it's me. So let's go forward here in time, and we can see as we go out to 4 days, right about here, there is that tropical wave that we're watching. Here comes another one. Here comes another one. And again, this is for early next week, for Sunday morning, August the 11th. And then look what happens. By the time we go into, say, 180 hours out, this is August the 14th, we do have this tropical wave that we're really watching, very similar in its structure and path, like what Debbie took. But to be quite honest, and then here comes another big tropical wave. It's getting active out there. And then watch what happens. It really does take a similar path than what Debbie took. This is by Tuesday, August the 20th. And by the way, would be making landfall almost on the same day of the week as what Debbie did too. What a coincidence. Do weather patterns really repeat themselves? That's a huge question that I need to ask you all. Maybe a meteorologist that leaves a comment may be able to answer that question. And then look at what we got going on. Look at all that energy moving off of Africa towards the 20th of August. And then, of course, do I rarely go out beyond that time frame? Then another tropical wave coming off of Africa. So we're starting to get the ball rolling, folks, for a very busy period. Looking at the Canadian model now, same plot system, only, again, a different model. Let's see what that model shows. And we're just going to kind of fast forward through this because you kind of see what days we're looking at. This is for Tuesday next week. And then look at what happens with that system. It goes kind of with what the European model thinks, possibly a strong tropical storm or a hurricane on this model. So there is 3 models here now beginning to agree on something that forms in this general area in the next 10 days. And that's why I really think the National Hurricane Center, while there's nothing on the map right now, if we go back and look at that, there's nothing. There will be something. I very much expect that to be issued probably in the next day or two with that yellow area that we will see because of the agreement that we're expecting here on the deterministic and both on that with the ensemble forecast. Speaking of ensemble, let's take a look at the map here from weathernerds.org. There will be a link to below this video. So looking at the forecast here on the ensemble forecast, so again, the atmosphere is tweaked 51 different times to get us a range of possible outcomes, all right? This is more what we should be using over, say, a deterministic forecast. So we can see that the Euro has 2 distinct areas that we need to watch closely. Of course, this one, all eyes should be on this system because while it's ahead of the wave behind it, which is over the Cabo Verde Islands during the 5-day period, which, by the way, this is 5 days out. There is Debbie's ensemble forecast there from the Euro. Decent spread there, by the way, between just off the coast of New York versus being in the upstate New York area. Now, going out to day 7, this is what it looks like. Again, look at all the clustering of ensemble members, indicating a tropical depression or tropical storm in the northeastern Caribbean. And again, there is our second wave that we may have to watch it later down the road. Again, this is a sign of what's to come, folks, and there's more evidence to back up just ensemble forecasting. And then looking out to day 10, I know this is very far out. This is possibly in fantasy land, but in this case, probably not, because we do have a lot of ensemble members picking up on this wave. The wave that we talked about that is going to cause a lot of problems could be in this area, either the northwestern Caribbean, in the southwestern Atlantic, say near the Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos, or perhaps in the central western Atlantic near Bermuda, where again, most of the ensemble members here are picking this up as being a high-end tropical storm or maybe even a low-grade hurricane. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but some of these track colors, see how they turn yellow and some of them orange, really begs the question that this could become a high-end tropical storm. And again, would be Ernesto on our list of named storms. Pre-naming this is very obnoxious for me to do, but I have a lot of confidence that this is going to develop into something more sinister than, say, not. Now, you really want to know what's very sinister is the sea surface temperatures over the Gulf of Mexico. My goodness, we are literally off the charts over this area of the Gulf of Mexico, off the coast of New Orleans, off of Cameron. If you're down here, wow, water temperatures are at least 90 to 92 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a huge problem. If we get a tropical storm or hurricane moving into this area, it is going to be ugly if it encounters very favorable conditions. Look at the entire Gulf of Mexico right now, running at least 31 Celsius or 88 to 89 degrees Fahrenheit. That is, you need sea surface temperatures 80 degrees Fahrenheit to get a tropical storm or hurricane to develop. Well, we got 88 to 89 Fahrenheit waters in the Gulf. That is more than suitable to get a tropical storm or hurricane, and perhaps could even favor rapid intensification systems. I mean, this is getting to be ridiculous, seeing these water temperatures like this. I mean, come on, 91, 92 Fahrenheit, that is bathtub warm, that is hot tub warm. You go into a jacuzzi, you might want to just put your feet in the jacuzzi in the Gulf because these waters are very warm. And I'm not saying that to hype up things up. I'm seeing what I see here, and it's pretty concerning. This is shallow water, though. These are all shelf waters up here, just for a heads up. So if we do get a lot of agitation, like offshore winds, like a northerly wind, this is probably going to be able to get agitated and able to cool off more sufficiently. But if the winds stay light over here for several more days, these are going to warm up even further than what they are now. Speaking of warming up, look at the entire Gulf above average right now. So there's no area in the Gulf now seeing sea surface temperatures that are below average. Only significantly above average off the coast of New Orleans, where you're running almost 3 degrees Celsius above the long-term average. I mean, that is ridiculous. That is phenomenal, to say the least. All right, another map that I like to illustrate this more clearly is the potential minimum central pressure and the potential maximum intensity with these systems. All right, let's assume, okay, this does not mean we're going to get a Cat 5 in the Gulf of Mexico. This does not mean we're going to get an 880 millibar system, okay? This is assuming, okay, we got to understand the background state. There's more than just sea surface temperatures here working at favor. Upper ocean heat content, moisture, wind shear, upper level winds. We have to take things into consideration, okay, when examining these maps. This is assuming everything is pristine and perfect. There's very little wind shear, less than 5 knots. Sea surface temperatures are at least, in this case, 30 to 31 Celsius, 32 Celsius in the Gulf of Mexico, like we just mentioned, and upper ocean heat content is extremely high in these areas, and the deep layer moisture is very high too. If everything comes together as perfect as you could ever imagine, the Gulf of Mexico could theoretically favor violent hurricane production. I'm not going to give out a specific air pressure reading or a minimum central pressure. All you need to know is the Gulf could really favor some intense, robust, violent hurricanes if everything comes together later on in the season. We have another look at this in the main development region too. Lots of blues here indicating very low minimum central pressure. Another way we could extrapolate this in miles or wind speed and knots here is you can see a lot of blue. Man, even look at that. In the Bermuda area, theoretically, you could favor Category 5 up there because water temperatures are literally 28 to almost 30 degrees Celsius that far north, and they're still warming up, folks. We still have at least a month, a little more than a month to go before these water temperatures begin to cool off. And I mean, we're really, this is not good. If we get a tropical wave, I mean, theoretically, conditions here are as favorable as you can get. Theoretically, if things did, you could get a Cat 5. But look at the Gulf. You could favor some intense hurricanes, violent hurricanes moving into Texas, Louisiana. This darkest blue color favors 165 to even 180 knots. That is 180 knots, I believe, is just over or just shy of 200 miles an hour. That would be total devastation if this came to pass. But let's not really worry about this map very much because I don't want you guys to panic. I'm not here to cause a lot of panic at all. This is just showing you can visit this. There will be a link in the description leading to these maps. In fact, you can kind of get an idea what the website looks like just by looking at this. Again, this is assuming everything comes together as perfect as it could ever be. And unfortunately, that might just happen by late August into early September. Actually, maybe even as early as mid-August. So this is a look at the ECMWF EPS. This is an individual member, but I'll show you the control and ensemble member here in a second. But this really illustrates, look how favorable the background state of the atmosphere is going to get once we go into mid-August into late August. I mean, August 21st, look at all of this blue over Africa, over the Indian Ocean. I mean, you cannot get any more favorable than what you see here. And then don't think that, oh, a lot of sinking, David. What are you talking about? There's going to be unfavorable conditions in late August. This lags behind a little bit, and I will show you what I mean by that in a little bit, all right? You got to trust on what I say, folks, all right? Please trust this, all right? Because I've been doing this for over 5 or 6 years. Well, theoretically, I've been tracking the hurricane season since 2010, but I did not start my career here on YouTube until 2017. Was my first official Atlantic hurricane season when I started in the middle of September, during which we were tracking, I think it was Dorian. No, wait, no, it was Irma and Maria that year when we were kind of tracking. And now look at here, we're in 2024 getting ready for our next hurricane season, or the meat of it, which is coming very soon. And look at all this upward motion. It is coming, and it is going to favor this area of the Atlantic and Africa. And once it does, it's a flip of a light switch. It's like turning your light switch from off to on. And once that goes, I think we're going to have at least 3 or 4 named storms before we close out August, I believe. And then once we get into September, folks, it's going to even be more active. We might have 10 or more named storms to watch for closely. we're going to make up very quickly. I'm still confident in that. Here's a look at the ensemble, even picking this large-scale upward motion in Africa and in India. This is not what you want to see at all. This is troublemaker for the Atlantic, and a lot of the sinking air is over the Atlantic in the upper levels, but not really mixing down on the surface. And so when we get these tropical waves, just believe me, take my word for it, it's going to get busy. So now, another way we could extrapolate this is looking at our phase diagram. So, you know these numbers down here on the Mercator, on the Mercator projection, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1 again. These are basically your phase numbers. So when we take a look at this, this is going to be going, and this is where we're at right now, okay? We are in phase 1, just inside the unit circle. But watch this. Once we go into mid-August, we're going to phase 2, and then eventually into phase 3, and then eventually into phase 4. And whoa, look at some of these ensemble members going really crazy. We're going all the way out here into a very amplified state of the MJO. So this really indicates to me once we get into phase 2, 3, 4, and because of how favorable the sea surface temperatures are, we might see this stay in a very active in 4 phases from phase 2 through phase 5. When we look at the GFS model, look at this. It's even more wild than the European model. I mean, it goes way out here. I mean, almost like one individual member even going off the charts here, indicating a hyperactive MJO signal. So this really has to be monitored closely because, again, once we go into mid-August, that's basically the start of this mess. It's going to be very active. Just come on, folks. Believe me in here. Believe Weatherman Plus, believe Weather Nazario, believe Pat's Path Predictor. All of their YouTube channel links will be in the description below this video. Go check them out after this video. After you watch this video, don't turn your focus off yet because they're going to show you the exact same thing. So now, let's take a look at our upper ocean heat content. First, in the Gulf of Mexico and in the Northwestern Caribbean, because the chart that I'm about to show you doesn't go as high as what this shows because of the color code system. So you can see in the Gulf of Mexico and over the Northwestern Caribbean, this really is an eye-opener. This is literally gets my attention when I see this. These dark red colors, I mean, literally, the darkest red you can possibly get is 200 units of upper ocean heat content. Just to go to show you how high that is, we have not seen anything that high since 2020. All right, so we're literally seeing a record that is 4 years old, and we're still literally about a month away from the peak of oceanic heat content, maybe even in the late part of September too. And look at where we're at. 200 of upper ocean heat content. We're already approaching 175 locally, even up to 190 of upper ocean heat content. So the Gulf of Mexico, the Northwestern Caribbean is literally on fire right now with upper ocean heat content. When we look at the wider map of perspectives here, you can see the upper ocean heat content is very high up here. In the rest of the Caribbean, of course, this darkest red only goes up to 175. But that's why I showed you this map. This kind of goes up a little higher. You can see the legend up here goes up 200. This only goes up to 175. So in reality, this is really, really concerning. Very high upper ocean heat content in the Caribbean and in the Gulf of Mexico. It spells big troubles ahead for late August and early September, even mid-August perhaps. So now the depth of the 79 to 80 degree isotherm goes very far down. I looked at some of the numbers here, as deep as 600 feet. 600 feet, folks. Imagining that 600 feet down, you're still at 80 degrees Fahrenheit below the surface. So you dive. So imagine yourself diving off of a boat and diving straight down to 600 feet. You're going to find your 80 degree isotherm there. That is how deep this upper ocean heat content and how warm these waters are. They're not just shallow, they're very deep down. So imagining if we get a hurricane through here, it's not going to really turn up the water as much, and it's going to only allow for additional storms to intensify after that one passed over that area. And even in the Gulf of Mexico, it is very deep too, with upper ocean heat content. Oh boy, with that being said, I really hope you guys liked the tropical weather outlook and discussion. All the information that I gave you, including on Tropical Storm Debbie, that is still wreaking havoc across this southeastern United States, over the Carolinas, even over Virginia, and perhaps even the Northeast, getting a lot of rain up there. My heart and thoughts are to all of those that are being impacted by this. And we really need to watch what goes on in the deep tropics, because I just showed you everything in this video, showing you that there's going to be a lot of activity. But anyways, if you did like today's detailed video, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the like button, and share this video with your family and friends on social media. You guys are very, very awesome, and I will keep you guys updated here on the tropics as we get into our meat of the Atlantic hurricane season.